Last of Us aired its season finale on Sunday night on HBO Max and on HBO. Obviously, the Oscars happened that night, so I didn't catch it that night. I was watching the end of the Oscars, and I'm going to actually talk about the Oscars in a minute. For those of you that don't know, The Last of Us is based on the award-winning video game, really one of the best video games ever made, The Last of Us. It's about a man named Joel who has to escort this girl, Ellie, across the country in a post-apocalyptic world because she may hold the cure to this viral outbreak called cordyceps. Turns everybody into mushrooms and fungus, and everybody looks disgusting, and shit's coming out of their mouth and head, and it just looks fucking gross. First things first, I got a lot of questions about whether I did watch the Academy Awards. As I said, I watched most of it. We had some of it on at work, caught the tail end of it at home, and I wasn't too shocked with anything. This was a year where I was fine with everything winning that was nominated, except for probably Elvis, if that had won anything and it got shut out. Austin Butler was great though. But you know, this is like Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Picture, deserving of it for sure. There weren't any blunders in this year's Oscars, but honestly, dude, Brendan Fraser, fucking yes, that man deserves that award. What a comeback. One of, if not the best comeback stories in all of Hollywood. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about The Last of Us. So as I said, this is adapted from the video game. And I was really curious to see how this was going to translate into a live action adaptation. And I feel like if you're going to adapt a video game, this is the route to go. Make it a TV series. But we've already seen a failure on that regard with Welcome to Raccoon City, which was the Resident Evil series that starred Ella Balinska. Nothing Resident Evil live action has captured the magic of Resident Evil. And of course, when you're adapting stuff, you have to take into consideration what works, what wouldn't work in live action from book or video game or stage play. And you kind of have to work your way around that or expand on some things. And The Last of Us is definitely the best video game adaptation ever made. I have my fair share of guilty pleasure video game movies that I like. Prince of Persia. I ain't denying that. This one has the most effort put into it. Everything from the tone, the atmosphere, the tension, the characters, the acting, the writing, directing, man, everything just felt so in place and perfect. And I loved every second of watching this TV series. I considered doing an episode by episode review of all the episodes of The Last of Us, but I just didn't have the time, nor did I have the effort. But I figured if I wasn't going to do that, I had to talk about my thoughts on the show. Everything is picture perfect. Bella Ramsey is perfect as Ellie. Pedro Pascal is perfect as Joel. The characters are written as they are in the game. They have the same qualities, same traits, same personalities. There's not much different in that regard. I was worried towards the middle of the season, though, when we hit like episode 4 or 5-ish, because there was only 9 episodes. And I said to myself, are we even going to finish adapting this thing in one season? And there's rumors that when they adapt The Last of Us Season 2, that they might have to expand it past the second season. They might not be able to adapt the whole thing. And I'd be okay with that. Hey, the more Last of Us, the better. I know how people feel about The Last of Us Part 2. I personally love it. I don't love it as much as the first one, but it's still great. You know me, I love the divisive shit. The Last Jedi, fucking amazing. No Time to Die, fucking amazing. And there's people over there being like, trying to bite my head off on those crazy hot takes. That's going to be an interesting one for me. And I thrive for divisiveness. I love being challenged as an audience member, and I think that this actually will challenge casual viewers, because I think casual viewers who haven't played the game will be expecting an actual zombie show, something similar to The Walking Dead. And I saw a hot take on Twitter that The Walking Dead was better than this. Look, The Walking Dead is like a drop in the bucket compared to this. See, I think where casual viewers will probably get lost is that they're going to be expecting a show about zombies. And both the game and the show are not about the zombies. It's always been more about these characters' humanity, the choices they make, the regrets that they have in their past, or the mistakes that they made in their past, and trying to learn from those mistakes, or maybe expanding upon those mistakes. Because spoilers for the ending of both the video game and the season, Joel doesn't let the Fireflies operate on Ellie, because she could hold the cure to this whole cordyceps outbreak. And he's like, no, I'm taking her. She deserves much more than this. So Joel essentially fucks over humanity. So many moral questions and decisions that come into play. And that's what makes these characters so great. And I love that Neil Druckmann was involved because Neil Druckmann understood that the video game is the game. You can take a lot of iconic scenery from the game and a lot of iconic story beats and all the iconic characters and throw them into a show, but you also have to expand on that. You have to change some things. For instance, I think the way they explain it is this: is that the infected, like the clickers, the bloaters, and all that, they all act as a hive because they're connected through like tendrils or something. That wasn't in the game, so that's like a change because they didn't use the spores in this adaptation, which when you look at their reasoning, it makes sense. And there's just that scene at the end of episode 2 where Tess dies and she gets like all like the weird fungus shit coming out of her and it's friggin' gross. That's a change. Both episode 1 and episode 2 begin with flashbacks to the 70s and I think 2003 when the outbreak first started. The first flashback in the first episode is talking about like pandemics and what we can do or how we can't prevent certain things from happening in a pandemic. And then the second episode opens with a scientist from across the world saying there's nothing we can do. The outbreak has already happened. We just got to bomb the city and everybody in it. And that just made the situation even more dire and make you understand just how bad this thing is. Episode 3 is essentially a love story, and I loved it. It's expanding on things that were hinted at in the game, but now it's at the forefront. It's Frank and Bill focuses on their relationship, and that's the entire episode. That got a lot of flack, along with episode 7, which was based on the Left Behind DLC. I'm fine with them adapting that. I think my only problem with that is that it's not the episode itself, like many people are saying, where it's they're coming up with stupid conclusions about these 2 episodes. I'm not even going to mention them. And there's some other conclusions where it's like, well, there's no Joel or Ellie, and that's perfectly understandable. But for me, as somebody who played that DLC, played the game, really loved the game, I think maybe that should have happened a little bit earlier. But it also makes sense where that episode's placement is in the season because the episode before is where Joel gets injured and he's near death. Episode 7 begins with Ellie trying to go find supplies, and she's thinking about her time with Riley back in Boston. I guess Ellie thinking about that while Joel's on his deathbed, I guess made more thematic sense for that placement there. But man, episode 8 was probably my favorite one because the winter section of the game was definitely my favorite. And I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do with David, and it's essentially the same goddamn thing. That is a sick human being, essentially feeding his followers people he kills.
They're cannibals.
And that was always my favorite section of the game. Having a no-name guy play David made David that much more scary because it was like this guy could tune like in and out. It was weird that he wasn't a big-name actor and he was just some fella. I feel like he could flip the switch on and off like that. And when you look at him, you don't look at him as that type of person that could do that. So the fact that they could pull that off was really rewarding for me, and I felt like as a viewer of the show, they really sold me on this dude is the leader of like a cannibalistic tribe. But there's something I hated about that. Ellie got one shiv and stabbed him instantly. Where I had to walk around the freaking restaurant and step on glass and have him kill me about 7 to 8 times before I figured out there was glass on the floor. God damn it. I think he was a lot scarier in the game. I think it's just because the look of him in the game is just like, what the fuck is it? But when it came to this adaptation, I think they did a really good job of cutting out what I think a lot of fans of the game wanted to see, and that was like the dead space, kind of where you're just exploring and there's not much going on. You have to condense a lot of that. It's almost like the camping scenes in Deathly Hallows Part 1. How do you condense that from the book into a live-action adaptation for a movie? And they pulled it off really well in Deathly Hallows Part 1. And here, they just got rid of all that dead space that wasn't necessary. Like, they cut out that action scene at Bill's house where you had to go for supplies with Bill. I thought that actually worked really well in the show, as opposed to the game, because you can't have just an action-oriented adaptation. For a game that is so heavy on characters and their humanity, a show that's being adapted from a game like that has to explore the humanity of the characters a lot more. So they really shrunk down that dead space and that dead air, and really made a show that focused a lot on the character's humanity. Love the new characters. Melanie Linsky's character I thought was really good. I really liked her in her 2 episodes. Just certain things that I think work better in a live action adaptation as opposed to the actual video game. So those are my thoughts on The Last of Us, guys. I know it's kind of been polarizing for people, as The Last of Us Part 2 video game was, but this was everything I could have asked for. Perfect directing, perfect writing, perfect tone, atmosphere, tension, acting, all top notch. I cannot wait to see more. Cannot wait to see what they have up their sleeve for season 2 and what they're going to do with Joel, because, spoiler alert, Joel dies in The Last of Us Part 2 fairly early in the game. And I feel like you wouldn't want to get rid of a talent like Pedro Pascal. It's going to be interesting. We'll see where it goes. I loved every episode. Episode 8, my favorite by far. If you have seen The Last of Us, drop me some feedback in the comment section below. I will leave my links to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.